without any kind of fear of retaliation. Now, that might mean enhancements in penalties. It means training and awareness of the police department. But keep in mind, this is a two-edged issue, too. It's not just the witnesses and victims of police brutality that need to be protected when they come forward. But we need to instill an environment within the police department that officers who are witnesses can also come forward without fear of retaliation. Whether that retaliation is some sort of backhanded retaliation, or whether it is retaliation in their advancement through the professional ranks of the LAPD.
Well, a continued push forward and proactive, strong, even deeper community-based policing, so that police are not acting in a reactionary way, but in a proactive way, because they have deep, long-standing and abiding relationships with people on a block-to-block basis, so that they understand when issues arise, if there's a case of domestic violence, if there's a house where somebody's selling drugs on the block, if there's somebody who is suffering from significant and profound mental illness, so that they can be prepared and anticipate. And I think back about the time that I've spent just as a council member going to block clubs. A woman in particular, her name was Mary Knoll, she's passed away, around 60th and Figueroa. The senior lead officer who came to her meetings has been a senior lead officer for almost 30 years. This is a person who knows every inch of the area in which he serves. That is the kind of police officer that we need to build, to promote through training, through rotation, through development in skills across the board, social service skills included, particularly in dealing with people who have mental health issues, so that we can be ready to confront issues that arise, and not in a way that is a threat to our citizens, but rather in partnership.
Thank you. This is a question near and dear to my heart. As a little boy, I would be around the dinner table at night. My father was in charge of the division of the district attorney's office that went after police officers who were accused of brutality. And it was so bad back in those days, if you remember the Eula Love case and some of the other cases that ripped this community apart, is we actually had officers, when my dad would go to the division house to let them know that they'd be investigated if these things happened, who said, you know what, Mr. Garcetti, if you were dying on the street and I saw you, I would step right over you and not help you. We have come a long way since the days of LAPD when people were talking about chokeholds and what they meant to African-American men. We've come a long way since we've seen those issues of brutality. We've come a long way since Rampart. But the test of the department is not whether or not mistakes will be made, because they always will be. It's the reaction of the department when those mistakes are made. So I was very glad to see, for instance, when there was an accusation of brutality in the North San Fernando Valley, that immediately officers were suspended, investigated, and every officer had to watch that videotape the next day in the department. But this is what I'll ask for of my police chief and my commissioners when I'm next mayor. First and foremost, do you believe, and what will you do to implement constitutional policing? Second, what will you do to recruit folks from our community to be police officers? Third, what can we do to make sure that we have cameras in all of our cars like we've implemented here in South Bureau to keep accountability both directions? In fact, the police officers like this, and so do civil rights activists, because a camera doesn't lie, even on the person of police officers, which some have talked about. In Washington, D.C., unlike what we see in New York, where young black men and Latinos are being stopped and frisked just for being black and Latino, in Washington, D.C., they've seen similar cuts in crime because they've asked their police officers to not wait, but to go and walk, not just the senior lead officer type officers, but all of them to go walk and talk and establish relationships in the community. That's the sort of policing that I want to see, because the best intelligence and the best reduction of crime comes when officers know everybody in the community, and I want to see that. I want to see that in my own district, in my own city. Time is up, but the last thing is in our jails specifically too. Put cameras in there. I'm proud to work with LAPD to have the first protections against sexual abuse of those who are in jails, which has been a problem too.
Thank you. Ms. Girl.
You know, when we look at our police department, there's some good news. The ranks of our police department have African Americans at the top and Latinas at the top and women at the top that we didn't have before. For many reasons, that has made sure that our police department is more responsive to the community needs. I was there in Tom Bradley's office when the Christopher Commission was set up to look at the ways in which LAPD and the community were engaged, or in many instances, not engaged, and sitting at the table. Today, we have Connie Rice, who's an incredible supporter of mine, who was suing the LAPD on numerous times, is now sitting at the table with LAPD to solve some of our problems. John Mack, civil rights leader, has been on our police commission, addressing the issues of ensuring each community is represented and that there's not the kind of police brutality. But with that being said, training is everything. And the diversity of our police force, as well as ensuring that they have the right training to deal with individuals, whether it be domestic violence, homeless and mentally ill, and dealing with the gang violence that we have in our communities. The GRID program, which has been a successful program in LA, has brought together gang intervention experts and brought together the Los Angeles Police Department. Today, it's not us against them, it's about everyone working together. As mayor of Los Angeles, I will ensure that no one takes advantage or is abusing those that they arrest. That we have to set a tone at the top that says our police department and our police officers will be held accountable, but you will be part of that and be part of the training that is so important. And so when we look at the future of our police department, it is important to see that all of you are at the table when there's a problem. So that if an occurrence happens and there's a lot of accusations, they sit at the table and not only they look at the video, but they talk to one another about how could we have done that better, where were the problems, and ensure that lives are protected. Because the police department is there and our officers are there to protect and to serve the entire community.
And that concludes part one of our two-part broadcast from Mount Gilead Baptist Church. Please bear in mind that Election Day is Tuesday, March 5th, 2013, and that leaves us very little time to make our choice for mayor. Newswire LA is presenting this series of shows along with our in-depth candidate interviews as just one tool you can use to make your choice. Researching the candidates' stand on other issues not presented here is the job of the voter. Until next week, we want to remind you that to follow everything Newswire LA, look us up on Facebook and Twitter at Newswire LA. We're leaving you with images from tonight's forum. I'm Chin Thomasanksi saying good night, and we'll see you back here next week. Stay tuned for more news on this Westlake Signal station.